create catch the Joker game using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. I will leave the source code in the description along with the steps. Fine. Now if you see, the time is getting decremented from 10 second to 0 second, and if you wish to catch the Joker, you can catch it by clicking it, and it says game over, final score is 0 because I haven't tried catching it. Now let's try to catch it. Now the time is getting decremented from 10 second to 0. Now if I try to click on the Joker, it says correct and your score has been incremented to 1, and now the time is also completed and says the final score is 1. Now if you see, once the timer gets completed, the Joker also stops moving. Now let's focus on catching the Joker and let's see. And I have used HTML, CSS and JavaScript to create this project. Now the final score is 4. Fine. If you get into the link which I have provided, you will see this file, and this file has HTML file, CSS and JavaScript along with the Joker image. Now let me open it. Let me open the file required. I will start JavaScript from scratch and I will explain the required CSS. Fine, let me delete all the JavaScript because I'm going to start it from 0, and I would be explaining the style sheet. I won't be skipping it, but I will be explaining each line of it. Fine. Now so this is our file. I have removed script, that's why we could not see the square boxes. And the first section is simply the heading. The time left is in the heading 4 and the score is in the heading 4 again. And to dynamically change, I have given the span, and to uniquely identify it, I have given the ID time and the ID score. And this board will have some div with class square. The total number would be 9, and if I refresh it now, you'll see, because this square we would be creating with the help of JavaScript, not the static HTML way but in the JavaScript. So I have removed the padding and margin, and I have added the font, Google font, which is Poppins. And then for the body, I have used background color black. I have used display flex so that we can see our content inside the body on the center of the screen. To make it work, I should use width and height. That's what I did. Now without the flex direction column, you will see the heading and the board will be on the side by side. We don't need that. To make it column level, I have added flex direction column. Now this is the simple color for the heading 4, and this is the container which holds both the heading, so that we can get side by side. I have used flex direction display flex. Fine. Now to get the space, I have chosen the second h4 and given the margin 20 pixel. Now let's get into the board, because this board has some classes. This board has only one class, which is square, and to make them inside the board, I have used display flex. And if you remove the wrap, you will see all the div will be in the same column. To make it display wrap, so to respect the height and width of the square, we would use the flex wrap. Fine. If you see, the square width is 100 pixel and the board width is 300 pixel. 300 pixel is the total of 100 plus 100 plus 100, which is 3 square. That's why it makes the complete square. Fine. Now this is a square which has no background color but the border, which is 1 pixel solid white, and I have changed the cursor from nothing to grab. Fine. Now if you add Joker class, you'll see the Joker image. It is because I have given the background image for the class Joker. So if I try to add Joker, you'll see this we will be adding with the help of JavaScript dynamically. We don't have to work on the HTML right now. For just showing you, I'm doing it. So I have given background size, background repeat, and background position to position it on the center of the square. Fine. Now let's get into the script. We don't need this because we will be creating it dynamically. So the very first thing is, I have explained the HTML and CSS. Now we are going to create the 9 square using JavaScript. So before doing anything, we have already mentioned the script tag on the head section. So to prevent the script before the HTML load, I would add a event listener which is DOM content loaded on the document, and this will ensure that your HTML will load first and then your script file will load next. So the script is in the head, so that's why I have added DOM content loaded. Now let's create a variable which will have number of div that we need, which is 9. We need 9 square, that's why I have initialized with 9. I'm going to run a for loop, and this for loop will run 9 times. As I said, this for loop is going to run 9 times, so let's see the message on the console. On the console, the message would be displayed 9 times on page refresh. So we don't need like this, we need the value of I. So you will see the value of I will get incremented from 1 to 9. And we'll console the message on the browser so that we can see on the Chrome Inspector console section. Fine. Now let me create an element which is a div, and let me store that element to a variable called div. And now once the div is created, I need to add a class to it. So for that, I'll use a property called classlist.add, and the class name would be square. As I have showed you, this div will have a class square, and once I have created div, I want to append this div to the HTML which is board. I want to append the div inside this class. So let me define the class first, document.querySelector, and it is an ID. So for that, sorry, it's a class, so for that I will use dot, and now using this board variable, I'm going to append the div which I have created. So the div will get appended 9 times because the for loop is going to run 9 times. And now you can see the div has class, but we need ID as well. So for that, I will add an attribute with the help of function set attribute. It will accept 2 parameters. The first one is ID, and the second one is the value of the ID. So let me add an hardcode value which is 1. So you will see each of them has the 1. We don't need like that. We want each of them to have an unique ID. So for that, I'll pass the I, so value from 1 to 9. So each square can be uniquely identified, and that's what we did right now. Now get all div with the class square. To get all the class name, to get all the div with the class square, I would be using the function called queryselectorAll. Now I'm going to get all div with class square. So as I said, call the document, and with the help of queryselectorAll, pass the class which is square and store it into a variable. You can name anything. I'm going to name it as all squares. Fine. Now let me show you what the query selector all gives you. It will give you a node list. You see, this node list contains the list of square, and it can be identified using ID from 0 to 9. It's not ID, we can uniquely identify with the index number. To how we can access it with the help of index number. So to access the first square, I would be passing the index 1 to it. This is how I pass. This is how I call the first square. So if I want to get the last, I would get the 8th. So if I need a third one, I would pass 4. I think I should pass 2. Fine, it is because the index starting from 0. Now we have done this. Choose random div. We are going to choose the random div out of 9 div. For that, I'm going to get the random number. To get the random number, we will be using the random function of math. It will be stored into a variable. Math.random will give you the random number, which will be in the decimal format. So let me store it into a variable called random number. We'll see the message on the console using the console log. Pass the variable. So it says we have not used the parenthesis, which is round bracket. So it will give the value in the decimal point. To remove the decimal point, what we have to do is we have to use math.floor. So if the decimal point is 0.5, math.floor will give you 0. Now we are getting 0. We don't need that. We need the value from 0 to 9. So for that, I'll multiply it with 9. So we'll get the value from 0 to 9 in the random way. Each time I refresh, you'll see the value is getting changed. 06720085032. Now you got a clear idea to get the random number. Now, as I said, we are going to get the random div. So for that, this random number, I'll pass it as the index number to the node list. We know we have received the node list with the help of queryselectorAll. I'm passing the index number. Now each time I refresh, you'll see the ID is 1 now. Now it's 9. Now it's 5. Now it's 7. 5. We are each time on refresh, we are getting the different square. Now save this div as a random number. Sorry, random div. We are going to save this div to a variable. So let me name it as random div. Now add Joker image to the random div. Now we got the random div. Now we need to add a class, that is with the help of class list dot add will pass the function Joker. Sorry, pass the class Joker. Now each time I refresh, you will see the Joker is getting added to the div, randomly generated div. Now what we need is, I'm going to use a setInterval, and that will add the Joker class after every half second. So we know we have already covered setInterval function. It will accept two parameters. The first one is a function to get executed every half second. 500 means 500 millisecond. So every half second, I need a message on the console saying hello every half seconds. So if I refresh, you'll see it is getting incremented from 4, 5, 6, 7 because every half second this message is getting called. So in between these, we need to show the Joker. It will not work. We need to paste the random number as well. We need to generate random number every half second, and the generated random number need to pass to the node list, and again the selected div will have the class Joker. Now we need to remove the, now you can see each time it is getting added. So what I need is, before adding, I want to remove all the Joker class. So for that, to remove the previous Joker, what we need is, again we need to get all the class with square, with all the div with class square. So use the forEach. So now we can, with the help of forEach, we can individually access one by one the div which has the class square. So let me show you how it works. So since I have written the for each inside the set interval, so this set interval will run every half second and it will display one by one every half second show all div. That means not only all div with class square. So if I refresh, you'll see every half the second you are getting the div with class square. So now we know we are getting the class square. Now we need to remove the class joker to it. So with the help of classList.remove function, we can remove the class joker. So every half second what it does is, so there is the arrangement problem now. So let me remove it. Every half second remove the class joker. Now if I refresh, it is not working. It is because the arrangement is wrong. I need to place these remove before the, let me remove this before, sorry, let me remove this for each and add above the random value generated. Now if you see, first it will remove the joker and then it will add, and that's working. Now I need to show the score. So for that I need to get the random position number and I have to store it into a variable. So we know we have the random value which is stored into a number, which is stored into a variable called random number. Let me get it, and let me store the random number into another variable which is position to hit the joker, camel case. Now add click function to all square to get all div. We have already stored the, we have already stored all divs with class square to a variable called all squares. Now we need to add the event listener click to it. So the all squares, again with the help of for each, we can individually access the class and add a listener which is click, and the function name, the first parameter is click and the second parameter is a function which need to trigger after I click on the square. So the check match function is the one that will be triggered when I click on the class square. So let me define the class check match. So to test it, what we'll do is, so before that I will be using the this keyword, because this keyword will simply refer to the clicked square. The square which I have clicked is this right now. Please understand, the square which I have clicked is simply this. So if you see, if I click on the third square, you'll see the third square. If you click on the sixth, now it's sixth. If I click on the ninth, now it's ninth. Now we have got the ID, and now we are going to check whether this ID is equal to the random number generated. Check click div and the random div matches. Now this dot id will give the id of the current div which I have clicked. So let me show you. Previously this was giving the whole div. Now this dot id will simply give the id 3, 6 and 9. Now get the joker position. We know the joker position is generated with the help of random number. Now we are going to compare these two. I'm going to concatenate it. The first one is simply the ID which I have clicked, and the second one is simply the Joker ID. Fine, we are going to compare. If both of them matches, then show the message as alert, show the message in alert. If both of them matches, then show the message in the alert saying matched. Or you can you'll get you got the, or you can show the message as you got the Joker. If I try to click it, you'll see you got the Joker, and that's working. Now we are going to create a variable called score so that we can change the score. Now we know the span tag with ID score. I'm calling it, and I'm storing it into a variable called score value, and let the score be 0. So if it is matches, I want to increment the score value, score plus plus, and then I want to display the value, score value, on the span tag. So let me see. So if there is a match, the score value will be incremented from 0 to 1, and it will show on the score. And there is an error. Let me see why. It is because we have identified the span tag with ID. If I try to click on the Joker, it says you got the Joker, and again there is an error. It says it is not getting identified. The spelling is right, and that is also okay. So let me rename it score div. It's actually a span tag. We can give it any name, so I'm giving it score div. So let's check again. I think the problem is we need to define this inside the function. So if there is a match, you'll get a message and the score is incremented, and that's working. Now display the score. We have done it. Now run game for 30 seconds. So let me create a variable called timer, and let me make it as 30 second. So with the help of setInterval, the reason for having setInterval is we need to decrement the time from 30 second to 0 second. So it should run every 1 second. Let me create another variable which is timer value, which will start from 0. And I think we don't need the timer. For every 1 second, what I need is I want to display the timer value. Not only the timer value, I need to decrement it. So again, you'll see the timer value is getting decremented because of the setInterval every 1 second. 30 would be too large. Let me make it 10 seconds. So now get the element, that is the span tag we have identified with time, and that will be stored into a variable called timeDiv, and this timeDiv will set the text content of the span tag. And now you will see every 1 second the value would be decremented by 1, and it again stores. So there is, we need to change the name from score div to time div. Now again, if I refresh, we need to paste this inside the setInterval. Now you see 10, 9, 8, it is getting decremented. Fine, that is working. Now what we need is, we want to stop the timer at 0. You see it is getting minus. We don't want that. Create start timer. We have done this. We have also done this. We have decremented the value of the timer by 1. That is also done. If the value reaches 0, then stop the timer. So with the help of if condition. So before that if condition, what we need is, I would like to store the timer value in a variable called new timer value. And if the timer value reaches to 0, then we need to stop this particular set interval. And before stopping, I would like to show the message as times up. So let me make it 5 seconds. 5 4 3 2 1. Once it reaches 0, we'll get the message saying times up. And if I click on OK, you'll see the value is getting decremented to 0. Sorry, the values keep on decrementing till, even though it reaches the minus level. So to stop the set interval, I'll store the set interval function inside a function called startTimer. And the opposite of set interval is the clear interval, clear timeout. So we need to pass the set start timer variable. So once it reaches to 0, we'll get the message and the timer will stop. Time's up and timer has stopped. Not only that, we need to stop the, we need to show the score with the times up. We'll concatenate final score is, and we'll pass the variable score which I have defined above. Now you'll see on the message, you'll get times up, final score is 0. Let me increment to 10 so that I can catch the joker and show you the updated score. And yes, I got the first match, and you'll see times up and the final score is 1. Fine, even after the time is 0, the joker is still moving. So to stop the joker, again, the joker is running on set interval. The same clear timeout, we'll use again. If you see, I try to catch it. Sorry for that. Now if timer value is 0, stop showing the joker. The timer is 0, the joker is still moving. We don't want that. So let's get into the set interval for the joker, and we'll store the set interval function to a variable. And I want to, when the time reaches to 0, I want to remove this span tag. Not only the span tag, the whole h6 heading. We know the span tag is inside the h6. So to get the h6 from the span tag, I will use parent element. So with the help of parent element from span, you can call the h6. And I need to pass style. I have missed the style. I will write now. Once the time reaches to 0, I want the message and the score to show up along with the h6 of the time to get completely removed. And now you see it is not showing, it is not getting away. Let's see why. It is because I need to add style to it, dot style. So from 10, let me make it 3 so we can quickly see the result. 3 2 1, show the message, and once I click on OK, you'll see the h6 disappeared because we have added the display node to the h6. Now let's get into the joker. Let me stop the joker. We know the set interval function is running the joker every half second. So let me create a function, so that function will have this function. With this, that function will have set interval function. So let me name the function show joker, and this show joker function will have the set interval, and I'll copy the whole function and paste it at the bottom. And now let me store this set interval function to a variable called show joker in square. So once it reaches to 0, then stop this set interval function using clearTimeout. 3, 2, 1, show the message, let the h6 disappear and stop the joker, and that's working. Now let me make it 10 and play the game whether it is working or not. We got the joker first time. And the time's up, the final score is 1. Joker stopped, and again let me play the game. 5, 4, we got the first joker. 2, 1, we get the message. This final score is 2 and joker stops. Now there is an error, I got it. It is because we know the ID starting from 1, but the random number we were getting is from 0 to 9. So there is a little mismatch. The ID starts from 1, but the random number is generating 0 to 9. So for that, we'll make the for loop to run from 0, so that we can get from 0 to 1, and it will be less than number of div needed. Now it will work fine. Now if I click on the joker, you will see 7 and 7, and that's working. Again I got the joker, and again the final score is 2. Joker stops and the time left h6 gets away. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for listening.